It's 3 a.m. somewhere over the North Atlantic. You have been flying for 4 hours. The cabin is dark, the seatback map shows a blue expanse with no airports, no airways, no landmarks. Just a dotted line and a number that says 4 hours and 12 minutes to go. At this moment, your aircraft is surrounded by ocean. There is no city below, no radar tower, no ground station, no one on the surface who can see where you are. And yet, somewhere out there, spread across hundreds of miles of airspace, invisible to each other, 80 or 90 other commercial aircraft are doing exactly the same thing, all of them heading in roughly the same direction, all of them on that same dark water. Someone is watching all of them, and the way they do it, the way they have done it for 60 years, is one of the most carefully engineered systems in aviation. The North Atlantic is the busiest oceanic airspace in the world. Roughly 1,500 commercial flights cross it every day. Most of them concentrate into an 8-hour window, departing eastern North America in the evening, crossing during the small hours, landing in Europe at breakfast. Ground-based radar does not work out here, neither does the VHF radio that domestic air traffic control relies on. The infrastructure that makes your flight controllable over Chicago or Frankfurt, the radar networks, the towers, the communication links, simply does not exist over an ocean. What exists instead is something else, a twice-daily planning process that reorganises transatlantic airspace every 12 hours. A set of radio and satellite technologies built to span thousands of miles, and a set of procedures built on a precise idea. If you know exactly where every aircraft started and exactly what speed it is flying, you can know where it is, even without seeing it in real time. For most of aviation history, that was enough. Recently, something better arrived. VHF radio, the frequency band used for nearly all air traffic control voice communication, travels in straight lines. At cruising altitude, a VHF signal can reach roughly 200 nautical miles before the curvature of the Earth cuts it off. The North Atlantic is 2,000 miles wide at its narrowest. There is no practical way to place VHF towers in the middle of the ocean, and even if there were, the radar that works alongside them faces the same geometric problem. So controllers in Gander, Newfoundland, NAV Canada's Oceanic facility, and in Prestwick, Scotland, Shanwick, run jointly by the UK's NATS and Ireland's Aviation Authority, manage transatlantic traffic without a radar picture. Gander handles the western half of the ocean, Shanwick handles the eastern. Together they cover more than 2,000 miles of airspace. What those controllers have is not a radar scope. It is a data picture, built not from radar returns but from information the aircraft report themselves, combined with increasingly precise surveillance from space. To move 1,500 aircraft across a radar-free ocean without conflict, the route structure itself becomes the primary safety tool. Every morning and every evening, the Gander and Shanwick facilities publish a set of pre-planned routes called the North Atlantic Organised Track System. Pilots call it the NAT. Airlines call it the tracks. The tracks are not permanent. They are redrawn every 12 hours, repositioned to follow the jet stream, the band of fast-moving high-altitude wind that shifts daily. Catching the core of the jet stream eastbound can cut a transatlantic crossing by 30 to 40 minutes and save thousands of kilograms of fuel. Each track is labelled alphabetically. Each day's set looks different from the one before. An airline's dispatcher studies the available tracks each evening, weighs the forecast winds at different altitudes, and files the route that offers the best economy. But when a flight enters oceanic airspace, it is not simply given a route and an altitude. It is given all three: a track, a flight level, and a Mach number. That Mach number is the key to longitudinal spacing. If the aircraft 80 miles ahead is flying Mach 0.84 and you are cleared at Mach 0.84, the gap stays constant for the entire crossing. A small deviation, slowing down, speeding up, compounds into a significant position error over hours of flying in airspace where there is very little ability to intervene quickly. An oceanic clearance is not just a route, it is a movement contract. Altitude, track, and Mach number, all three, held precisely from the entry point to the other side. For most of aviation history, oceanic controllers knew where an aircraft was because the crew told them. At each position point along the route, pilots transmitted a report over HF radio, high frequency, the band that bounces off the ionosphere rather than travelling line of sight, and that can span thousands of miles. It is also noisy. It crackles, it fades, and it sometimes requires multiple transmissions to get through clearly. A system called CellCal addressed one specific problem. Each aircraft was assigned a unique code. When a controller needed to reach that flight, they transmitted the code as audio tones on the HF frequency. Only the matching aircraft triggered a cockpit chime and light. Crews could mute the constant HF static between contacts without missing calls from air traffic control. A simple idea that meaningfully reduced fatigue on 7-hour crossings. It is still in use. But position reports have a fundamental limitation. A controller knows where an aircraft was at its last waypoint, not what is happening in between. In oceanic airspace, where parallel tracks may be separated by only 60 nautical miles, a crew that quietly drifts from their assigned altitude could go undetected for 10 or 14 minutes before the error appears in the next report. That uncertainty is exactly why oceanic separation standards have always been set so much wider than domestic radar separation. In March 2019, that changed. NATS and NAV Canada became the first air navigation service providers in the world to use space-based ADS-B for live oceanic traffic management. The system, called Aireon, is hosted on the Iridium Low Earth Orbit satellite constellation. It receives ADS-B position signals directly from commercial aircraft, the same transponders already fitted to modern jets, and relays them to the ground. Position updates arrive every 8 seconds. No new aircraft equipment required. A deviating aircraft is now visible to Gander or Shanwick within seconds. And with continuous real-time surveillance, the wide separation buffers built around positional uncertainty began to shrink. Lateral separation in parts of the North Atlantic has already been reduced from 60 nautical miles toward 19 nautical miles for equipped aircraft. More reductions are underway. The ocean did not change. The radar gap did not close. What changed is how clearly the picture is now. The system that manages transatlantic flight is 60 years old, and it is still changing. It started with paper flight strips and voice reports on crackling HF radio. It matured through data link communication and procedural separation, refined over decades of operational practice. And in 2019, it gained real-time visibility from orbit. What it did not do, at any point in those 60 years, was fail at the task it was designed for. The ocean that seems empty and unwatched is neither. The gap that radar cannot fill has been filled by something else, engineered specifically to replace what the physics of the Earth makes impossible. The next time you're on a transatlantic flight and the map shows nothing but ocean for the next 4 hours, your aircraft is one of several dozen on a precisely assigned track. Its position is being updated every 8 seconds to a satellite overhead. Its Mach number was chosen to maintain constant spacing with the flight you cannot see 80 miles ahead. The isolation is real. The watching is also real. It has been every crossing for 60 years.